Sadly, I am not smart enough to dive into the legal situations with Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, Devante Adams, Tyreek Hill. But lucky enough, we have Nate here, a member of the flock who's an actual attorney, focuses on corporate law, but has experience both in defense as well as prosecution. Diehard fan of fantasy football. Most importantly, actually knows what he's talking about. And I'm sure he is going to come on and tell me that I've been an idiot to draft Alvin Kamara as much as I have been. So, my man, let's start it off with Kamara because I'm not going to lie to you. I have some Alvin Kamara here, and I am a little nervous about it. So, I'd love to hear what you have to say with Kamara.
Hey, thanks for the introduction, Mason. Love the show, but I'm not going to call you an idiot here. Maybe I'll just shed some new light on the situation that can help you consider whether you want to keep adding that Kamara to your portfolio. So this goes back to February 2022, where Kamara showed up for the Pro Bowl in Las Vegas. You know, having it in Las Vegas was going to bring some shenanigans like this. Well, these parties were supposedly leaving nightclubs late in the morning the day before the Pro Bowl. And according to the police report, Kamara was in the elevator with a group of his friends, and the alleged victim was trying to come into the elevator. Kamara placed his hand on the guy's chest to stop him from coming in. The guy smacked Kamara's hand away, and all hell broke loose, and they got into this brawl. Things went way over the top, and the guy was being kicked and beaten on the ground to the point where he lost consciousness and was hospitalized with an orbital fracture in his right eye. Now, Kamara disputes those details and says that the guy was trying to run away and Kamara was just trying to keep him around because he had, assaulted or done something wrong to Kamara's friends. And for what it's worth, the police report says that the video evidence corroborates the alleged victim's story. So they say, Mason, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I think Alvin Kamara would like that to be the case here, but I'm not so sure that's going to happen. So where we're at now, these processes can take a long time to develop. And, there was this possibility of suspension looming all of last season. We didn't see that happen, but I think, the Bills' rent's due in terms of Kamara's suspension. And so he has pleaded not guilty and has a trial set for this month, July 2023. It's going to start on the 31st. He was earlier in 2023 indicted by a grand jury. A grand jury is essentially where a prosecutor will present evidence to a jury, and the jury will determine whether there's enough to formally bring charges and commence a trial against the defendant for whatever they were charged with. You'll remember this process with Deshaun Watson, among others, where in Watson's case, they did not charge him, but here, Kamara, they found enough evidence to bring criminal charges. He's been charged with one misdemeanor for conspiracy to commit battery, and then more seriously, battery resulting in substantial bodily harm. Now, Alvin Kamara's upcoming trial on July 31st coincides with training camp. So the question is, will there be a suspension, and when will said possible suspension occur? And keep in mind, just as a fact, only 10% of criminal cases go to trial. Most criminal cases don't make it to trial. They settle out of court or are otherwise resolved. So Kamara's case is one of about 10% of trials that actually makes it that far. So it's taken a long time to get here, but now that we are at the point of a criminal trial for Alvin, this can take, starting on the 31st of July, it can take days or it can take weeks, or in some instances for complex felony cases could take months. Years is theoretically possible, but it won't happen. I would anticipate Alvin's trial will resolve at some point during the 2023 NFL season. Now, we want to consider this with the NFL's personal conduct policy. Generally, the NFL tries to withhold imposing discipline on players until after investigations or criminal proceedings have resolved, just so that they can factor in, some of these more concrete findings into their decision making. And they've kind of been sitting on the background on this, but once there's a verdict in the Kamara case or it resolves, they're now going to be up to impose a suspension. Now, the NFL personal conduct policy prohibits conduct that is violent, dangerous, irresponsible, and puts innocent victims at risk, to use their words, as well as undercuts public respect and support for the NFL. So, with that being said, a criminal conviction is not necessary for the league to impose discipline on Alvin Kamara. We saw this with Deshaun Watson last year, where, like I previously mentioned, the indictment process, Watson was not indicted and still received an 11-game suspension. Likewise, Kareem Hunt never faced criminal charges for his incident a few years ago, and he received an 8-game suspension. So Kamara will not be out of the water even if he's able to receive a favorable outcome in this criminal case. In addition to Alvin's criminal case, he's facing a civil lawsuit by the alleged victim who's seeking $10 million. So that's going to be something playing out deep into the NFL season, if not continuing afterward. The NFL personal conduct policy does impose a minimum 6-game suspension for assaults, batteries, domestic violence, other offenses of those more serious kinds. And the league will also impose greater than 6 games when there are aggregating factors such as use of a weapon, or you're a repeat offender, or there's a violation against a child, anything of that sort. But where this leaves us with Alvin Kamara, everyone becomes a decent pick at a certain value. It's just a matter of where. Where is it appropriate to take that roll of the dice on a player? Right now, I think Alvin Kamara faces too much risk versus the reward he brings when you look at where he's being drafted. If you look also at what the Saints did, they brought in Jamal Williams for 3 years, $12 million, $8 million guaranteed. This guy led the league in rushing touchdowns last year. That's not an insignificant signing in terms of running back competition. Then you look at the NFL draft this year. The Saints took Kendre Miller, who I think is a solid talent. They spent a 3rd-round pick on him. So you combine that with the fact that Kamara was already declining in efficiency last year. He received a boatload of carries, but really was not quite as efficient as he had been throughout the twilight of his career. And trust me, I'm all for the twilight of Alvin Kamara's career. I had him when he had his 6 or 7 game touchdown and clinched a championship for me. So I know what prime Kamara was capable of. But given the increased risk that the league imposes discipline on Kamara at some point during this season, combined with his decreased efficiency, increased competition in Kendre Miller and Jamal Williams, I think there are players going after Kamara that I would rather have at his current price point.
So essentially what we're looking at with Alvin Kamara is we are looking at a running back that will most likely be suspended 6 or more games this next season at a time point which we are unsure of, but it will definitely happen this year.
I am hesitant to use the word definitely.
Yeah, sorry. I know we can't use the word definitely, but most likely will occur this year.
I would agree with that. His best case scenario would be a jury finding that he is not guilty on both counts, and it comes out that he acted in some sort of self-defense. However, even in that legal scenario where he's cleared, the league can still impose discipline for violation of the personal conduct policy. And in this case, when there's a video and the police report says that the video corroborates these allegations that have been made against Kamara, I would find it extremely unlikely that he avoids any suspension for this season. And like you said, I think 6 games or more is highly likely.
In that case, I would definitely agree. I think if you're looking at like casual ESPN leagues where Alvin Kamara is going, he's going at pick 75. He's going like right ahead of Drake London, David Montgomery, Christian Kirk, Michael Pittman, Brandon Ayuk. Yeah, probably shouldn't be drafting Alvin Kamara at that price point if we are looking at the likely suspension. And especially if you're just in like your casual redraft league on ESPN, it's not like you're having to chase for like the absolute highest ceiling possible, right? I mean, you can still have Drake London going out there being a top 24 wide receiver, and that contributes to, I mean, a massive win. You can win your 10 team, you can win your 12 team league. If we're on Underdog, I still am a little intrigued with Alvin Kamara, just because like Alvin Kamara obviously does have an elite level ceiling if he is still that guy, right? He's averaged over a 20% target share over the past 3 seasons, because there he's picked 101, you know? So in my mind, it's a little bit more of an appealing price point. And if it's on Underdog, you're in like those massive tournaments, right? Which is like a $25 buy-in, a $15 million prize pool in Best Ball Mania, $3 million for first place. If you want to get into any of those Underdog drafts, which we are doing every single day on the live stream, Best Ball, so no time commitment at all during the season. So I drafted over 700 teams and won $150,000 last year. Not meant to replace your main fantasy football league, just meant to be some extra fun on the side. You can find that link in the live chat, the description, or the comment section. When you sign up with promo code FLOCK, you're going to get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Plus, you'll get my 2023 fantasy football rankings and a free trial to flockfantasy.com. But yeah, available in damn near every state. You can see all the states here. But yeah, I would actually draft Kamara there, void him in a regular fantasy football league. So how I would probably use this information is if we are expecting that 6 or more games, I would probably avoid Alvin Kamara in casual redraft leagues where you're just with your high school buddies, just with your college buddies, and really only target him when you're getting him at a significant discount in the high stakes best ball tournaments when we are chasing a top 1 percentile outcome, if that makes sense. But let's dive over to our next player. I know you were wanting to talk about Tyreek Hill. Just got the news that something's going on with him on a boat. My initial reaction is, okay, the NFL is going to sweep this under the rug. I'm not worried at all. I'm going to keep on drafting Tyreek Hill at the beginning of the first round. Am I not looking into this enough? Should I actually be a little concerned and maybe go Cup instead?
Well, if you look behind me, I am quite fond of Cup. So I will always be the first one to support that pick. However, I do not think that Tyreek's developing situation is reason for much pause for this season specifically. And this goes to what I just described with Alvin Kamara, where the league is generally hesitant to impose suspensions on players when criminal investigations and lawsuits are ongoing. And that's exactly what's happening with Tyreek. So it's alleged that on Father's Day, of all days, Tyreek Hill was accused of slapping a 57-year-old in an argument at a marina in Miami when he was, I guess, spending the day going fishing. But police have said that they are investigating Tyreek Hill, but no charges have been filed to this point. Now, even if he does face charges or civil liability, it will likely not impact his fantasy football season for this year.
So yeah, just continue to draft Tyreek Hill as normal. I know we had some people worried about Devante Adams and him pushing a camera guy, is something along those lines. This was another situation that I was like, okay, is this actually something that's worth talking about? Is this actually something that can turn into anything? I've been ignoring it. I've continued to draft Devante Adams at ADP. Is this something I should be a little concerned with?
I think with Devante Adams, you might be more concerned with his quarterback than his legal situation, because with his, it is true that rent is due in the sense that all investigations, it seems like, have wrapped up. So if the league were to impose discipline, now is when it would happen. But the thing with Adams is, unlike Kamara's situation or Tyreek's situation, where it was, of course, done off camera and there's facts coming out that we need to decipher and the league needs to determine what actually happened. Well, you saw what happened with Adams. So did I, because it was on national television. So not only is the situation resolved, but the league really had, because we had all the information in terms of what happened, and they didn't impose any sanctions on Adams at the time. So I think that Devante Adams has, he might have concerns with his quarterback or his offense, but I think he should be fine from a legal perspective.
Awesome. And last guy, I know you're saying that you don't have a lot of information on him right now, but it seems like Joe Mixon was a running back that people were very worried about whenever like drafts first opened up on Underdog in April. But now it seems like people aren't really worried about Mixon at all. I mean, he's gone from being like a seventh round pick to now I saw him go in the fourth round yesterday. If I'm going over, it looks like Underdog even has, player prop lines up for Joe Mixon. I mean, if I'm looking at this, they have Joe Mixon set for 800 and a half rushing yards, 7 rushing touchdowns, a touchdown and a half receiving. And I mean, they have his lines up. They don't have anything for Alvin Kamara. They even took the lines down for Tyreek Hill. So, I mean, do we have anything that we can talk about here? It seems like they're kind of telling us that we don't have to worry about any Mixon suspension.
Yeah, I'm not as well versed in the specifics on Joe Mixon's situation, but from what I have seen, I'm still drafting Joe Mixon. I saw that the team, the Bengals, gave endorsement to Mixon as their back, kind of in minced words. But it seems that he's going to be on the team as of now, and I've been drafting Joe Mixon.
Well, I think that's all we have. Again, thank you so much, my man, for coming on and actually shining some light on these guys and helping us out a bit here because this is something that I just have no freaking idea with. But is there anything else you have before we let you go?
Nothing for me. Just thanks for having me on and keep it up. Love the show and looking forward to this football season.